हमें अपने मन को हमेशा संतुलित रखना है। इसी में हमारा आत्म विकास समाया हुआ है। त्वयि मे सर्वं ओम ओम ओम। आत्मनि मे त्वं ओम ओम ओम। स्मारे स्मारे ओम ओम ओम। चित्तं शामय शामय ओम। स्मराणि सोऽहं ओम ओम ओम। शान्तं चिन्मयम् ओम माम् ओम। तटस्थं केवलम् ओम ओम ओम। स्मराणि शुद्धम् ओम माम् ओम। Today's sutra is very important because this sutra is talking about the two basic things which Sankhya and Yoga talks about. The ultimate reality, according to Sankhya and Yoga, that is being talked about in today's sutra. And last sutra we saw that how we get knowledge about the Buddhi, knowledge about the eye sense, knowledge about the Chitta. Chitta, as we saw, is a conglomerate of so many faculties. So Chitta is a typically yoga word. It is a technological word. So it can be said to be belonging to the jargon of yoga. So Chitta comprises of 18 components. And gradually, when focus is done, when focus is on the right area, then the knowledge of all this arises that we saw in the last sutra. And these 18 components are Buddhi, Manas, Ahankar, Pancha Jnanendriya, Pancha Karmendriya, and Pancha Tanmatra. These are the 18 components of Chitta. And gradually, through the process of yogic concentration, one is required to acquire right knowledge about the nature of all these 18 components. And the finest and the most supreme component is the Buddhi in the Chitta. Because everything is extended form of Buddhi. Buddhi regulates everything. So previous sutra talked about knowledge of this Buddhi, this eye sense, Hridaya Chitta Samvita. So Chitta Samvita, knowledge of Chitta is gained. The entire process, how Chitta works, that knowledge is gained. Now logically, we have to understand that now this sutra is going beyond what is Chitta. Something which is beyond Chitta is Purusha, the pure consciousness. Now, there is no need for any confusion or Because when we talk about these things, immediately lots of doubts come in our mind, because we have heard so many things of similar kind from other scriptures. So one will say, what is this Purusha? Now you see Atma, Purusha, or even Ishvara, or even Brahma, all will be, related to this Purusha. They are similar concepts. So let us not have any confusion on that. So according to Sankhya, this entire process, the entire personality complex, it is made up of two different entities. And these two different entities are totally opposite to each other, totally different from each other. And these two entities are called Prakriti and Purusha. What is Prakriti is nothing but Chitta. But apart from Chitta, everything which is there in the external world, whatever we see, whatever we perceive, whatever we are capable of knowing, whatever we know, everything belongs to this Prakriti. So the external world is made up of Prakriti, and internal world, which is our body mind complex, that is also made up of Prakriti. But here in Sutra, this Prakriti part has been termed as Buddhi Sattva. It has been termed as Buddhi Sattva or Sattva. When we say Sattva, the predominant aspect of Buddhi is Sattva. And what is the characteristics of Sattva? Knowledge, illumination. So if we look at our entire personality, when we look at the physical body, there is more of tamas. If we go into the prana area of the body, the energy part of the body, then there is a rajas element. And gradually, as we go inward, as we go higher and higher in the hierarchy, we realize that the top is the sattva. Last time I had compared this chitta to a government of India, for example, or for a big corporate. When we look at the corporate, when we talk about the company, I had given example of government. So what is we say that India government, and I had given the example that on a vehicle it is written government of India. So does that vehicle becomes government of India? So many boards are also written government of India. Does that become government of India? When we go deeper into it, that is a vehicle which is working for a particular department. And that particular department is belonging to government of India. It is carrying out the government function. So it is called government of India. And we go deeper to it. It belongs to certain bigger department, which belongs to a ministry. Ministry belongs to, still be larger concept. The minister belongs to cabinet, and cabinet is again, they all are part of the legislature. They are part connected to legislature. They are connected to judiciary. And finally, we come to the final authority in the government. So that way, this conglomerate of chitta, we have got various faculties. I'm speaking to you, you are hearing me, and you are making sense of what I am saying. So this is also a faculty. But does that make you, or does when I'm speaking, does my speech constitutes me essentially? Am I this speech, or speech is something different than me? This has to be understood. So when you are listening with your ears and you are making sense of what I am saying, so is this capacity of hearing and making sense in the mind of what is being said, is that what constitutes you essentially, or you are different from this? So this is the line of thinking which has to be understood, and gradually one finds that all these faculties belongs to something different, something else. So this way the hierarchy is really reached, and finally one comes to buddhi, and one realizes that ultimately it is the buddhi which is most important, because buddhi is actually working behind everything. So buddhi is there in the background, but then finally we go beyond buddhi and we realize that even beyond buddhi there is something, and that something is Purusha. That entity is known as Purusha. And various names are there. In English terminology, if we say, it is called, often it is called self, self with capital S. When we say yourself, sometimes we use small s, but when we are referring to Purusha, or when we are referring to spirit, when we are referring to this consciousness, or it is called Chitti Shakti, it is called Chetna Shakti. Various names are there. No need to get confused because ultimately there are only two realities. One is the Prakriti, the other is the Purusha. Prakriti, Buddhi onwards, everything belongs to Prakriti and Purusha is separate. So this sutra reads, Sattva Purushayor Atyanta Sankirnayoho. See, Sattva word is again referring to Prakriti. It is again referring to Buddhi. So Sattva Purushayor Atyanta Sankirnayoho Pratyaya Vishesho Bhoga Pararthat Pararthatvat Swartha Sanyamat Purusha Jnanam. So Sattva Purushayo Atyanta Sankirnayoho Pratyaya Vishesho Bhoga Pararthatvat Swartha Sanyamat Purusha Jnanam. सत्व और पुरुष जो अत्यंत भिन्न है, उनका जुड़ा होने का या एक होने का जो विशेष प्रत्यय है या परसेप्शन, प्रत्यय परसेप्शन, नॉलेज, सत्व और पुरुष जो अत्यंत भिन्न है, उनका जुड़ा होने का या एक होने का जो विशेष प्रत्यय है, उसको भोग कहते हैं. वो भोग है जो कि परार्थ है और उसमें स्वार्थ संयम करने पर पुरुष का ज्ञान होता है. दिस इज द हिंदी ट्रांसलेशन. एंड इफ वी look at one more translation of Hindi, अत्यंत भिन्न सत्व, तो व्यास भाष्य से if we look at it, अत्यंत भिन्न सत्व और पुरुष का अभिन्न रूप एक जैसा होने में ज्ञात होना भोग है, जो कि बुद्धि की परार्थता के कारण होता है. इस भोग रूपी ज्ञान से भिन्न स्वार्थ केवल पुरुष वस्तु प्रत्यय में संयम करने से पुरुष का साक्षात्कार होता है. This is the translation. I know it is very confusing. I know, it is difficult to make sense of what I read just now. So I'll read the translation in English and then we will discuss what they are talking about. Experience of pleasure and pain arises from a conception which does not distinguish between the two extremely different entities, namely Buddhi Sattva and Purusha. Such experience exists for another, that is Purusha. That is why through Samyama on Purusha, who oversees all experiences and also their complete cessation, a knowledge regarding Purusha is acquired. Now this is what is the sutra. So in short, what we are here trying to understand is that it is an analysis of human experience. As we were discussing last time, if we want to know the truth about our own existence, and if we want to know the ultimate realities as they exist, we cannot find them in the outside world. Because what we will find in the outside world is nothing but only the gunas. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, play of gunas and varieties of substances, variety of matter, which are all combination of gunas in different forms. So in external world, we may find the nature of the external world. We may find what exactly is the nature of the Prakriti. But we will not be able to find about the consciousness. We will not be able to find about Atma. We will not be able to find about spirit. We will not be able to find about Ishvara or God. If we are interested in that, then we will have to look somewhere else. And what is that somewhere else? It is within. So, right from the beginning, Sankhya has been analyzing this human experience. Now, when I'm saying that everything is possible to be known through the experiences we are going through, many people will, kind of blame some systems of school. They will blame that you are being idealistic and you are focusing only on the consciousness. But then, all these years, this thinking has been going on ever since we came to know about this Purusha Prakriti. Definitely, so many questions and so many doubts have arisen, and so many answers also were there. Some discussions were there, some arguments were there. So many people say that, one has to be objective. You have to look at things objectively. But at one place, one by one very great thinker, I was reading about it, and then he said, ultimately, even if you are objective, even if the scientist is most objective, where does he find the truth about the external world? Where is that knowledge arising, and who makes use of that knowledge? So when Einstein arrives at a certain conclusion about the external world, who understands it? Who makes sense out of it? And where it was made sense? Where is it making sense? Ultimately, it is the human mind. All the discoveries of science, they are discoveries and they are valuable only because we are able to perceive them. We are able to know them. We are able to understand them. If we don't understand, then what is the significance of that finding? What is the significance of that fundamental scientific principle which the scientist has found out? So science may find it out objectively, but ultimately where the sense is made is the consciousness. So when we analyze our human experience, in experience, most of the time we find that right from the word go, ever since we are born, our consciousness is always directed outward because that's how the things are. So we, as an infant, when we grow up, we are listening to the sounds, we are looking at the visions, we are looking at the forms, we are tasting, we are smelling, we are touching. So this tactile sense through hearing, through eyes, we are forming relationship with the external world. And we go on giving names to these external world. Beginning with the touch of mother, we distinguish between a pleasant touch and unpleasant touch. When mother touches us, it is very pleasant. If somebody other than mother touches us, we can distinguish. And even the sounds, the loving sound of mother, it is very soothing. So from very early infantile stage, we learn to distinguish between pleasure and pain, between sukha and dukha. That is why this says experience of pleasure and pain arises from a conception. Now, you see why this kind of pleasure pain experience is arising. We don't ask that question. So example would be since today morning, since today morning, how many times all of us have used the word I, मैं. हमने आज सुबह से लेके मैं शब्द का कितनी बार इस्तेमाल किया है, थोड़ा सोच के देखेंगे, थोड़ा विचार करके देखेंगे. और आज ही क्यों, अब तक हम लोग मैं शब्द का इस्तेमाल कितनी बार कर चुके हैं. How many times we use the word I did this, I went there, I hate this, I love this, I like this. So this I is perpetually there. We are using this concept. But this I is used always in relation to external objects. I hate this, I love this is my house, this is my car, this is my money, this is my possession, this is my thoughts, my ideas. So everywhere I is omnipresent kind of presence it has. We do that. But then the question comes, have we ever thought what is the nature of this I? Who is this I? You will find hardly we do that. We normally don't do that because our consciousness is always busy in the external circumstances, in the external world. That is why we are not able to pay attention to the I. So essentially, when Sankhya or Yoga says, pay attention to your experience. So in an experience, what is there? We have to analyze that and we have to understand that. So now I have been talking, you have been listening. I have been saying something, you have been trying to make sense out of that. In this process, If I ask, right now you're not aware of the I, but if I ask, what did I say? And what did you understand? If I say this, then what will happen? You will go back to what was said and what was understood. And in that process of going back, you will make sense of what was said, and then you will come with the answer. I understood that you said this. This will be the answer. You will say, I. Now, this I is absent when you are listening. But when you reflect back, the I comes in. Otherwise, the I is not. Now you are listening. When you are listening to me intently, that time you are not aware that you are listening. But if I ask you, what did you hear? What did you, what sense you make out of what I say? Then you will think about it. You'll go back in reflection, and then you will say, I think you said this. This is what you meant. So this way, when we analyze our experience, we come to the I. But then we don't go deeper into the I. We just stop there. We take the I for granted. We don't think I is important. It is just taken for granted. It is there. Yes, I have a body, I have mind, I have capacity, I have buddhi, I have intelligence, I have the capacity to enjoy, I have good capacity to work, I have the capacity to do things. So I am doing them and I am enjoying that. So that is where the life gets stuck up. This is how the life mostly goes on. But when we turn back and when we pay attention to this I, then perhaps we can go deeper into understanding the buddhi. And finally, when we understand the buddhi, we can go and understand that there is something still beyond that buddhi, which is known as Purusha. So that is the method of going through the process of analysis of experience. So what is this experience? This experience in yoga is called Bhoga. Any kind of perception, any kind of thought, any kind of knowledge, any kind of knowing state, any kind of vritti, any kind of cognition, all cognitive states of human mind, they are Bhoga. Bhoga means experience. Because if I ask you, how was the day today? You will say good. How do you know it was good? My experience tells me. That will be the answer. Or you have eaten something nice and you say, what did you have for lunch? You'll say, I had this. How was it? Oh, I enjoyed it. It was very nice. How do you say that? Because you perceived that way. Your cognitive states told you it was so. So that is why it is called Bhoga. You are experiencing. Bhoga also means enjoying, partaking, enjoying it, making it our own. When we are eating, we are converting that experience of eating as our own, and we say it was my experience of eating food which I enjoyed. So this is what is known as Bhoga. So why this Bhoga is occurring, we don't bother about it. From where this capacity to perceive, eyes are seeing, ears are listening, I am talking. From where this capacity has come? Who has given me this capacity? We don't ask these questions. And what Sankhya and Yoga says, that when the two different entities, that is Buddhi Sattva, that is the Sattva which is present in every organ of our Sattva is present. We are able to talk because Sattva is there. We are able to understand because Sattva is there. If Sattva was not there, we will not be. But then Sattva is also supported by Tamas and Rajas. When I am using certain terminology, it is coming from my memory, which is possible because of the Tamas. Tamas has retained all those impressions. Tamas has the capacity to retain every experience in the form of memory. And from that memory I am speaking. I am using the language which I am using. And I require certain amount of energy to be able to speak. So this energy is coming from Rajas. And then Rajas and Tamas supporting Sattva. Sattva is the most important because Sattva is trying to make sense. It is connected to the knowledge. So the moment I say some word, immediately the Sattva in me is transferred to you in your ears, and then that sattva is transferred again into intelligence, and you make a sense out of what I am saying. So this process is going on. So ultimately, it is the sattva which is there. But beyond sattva, also there is something which is making it possible. So all the bhoga is taking place because two different entities, that is Purusha and Prakriti, are taken as one. Whenever there will be identification, now this is what is identification, and this is what is ego. When we say ego, ego is what? Now, when very simple exercise would be that so so many times we say, I see this, I see that, I enjoy this, I enjoy that. Now, if I am asking you what is the nature of I, just for a few minutes, focus only on the I. If possible, shut all your senses, close your eyes, and just say I, and try to understand what is this I. Just do it for a few minutes. Okay. And slowly open your eyes. Now, when we focus on the I, I'm sure some different experience must have been gathered, some different perception must have taken place. That when we are focusing on the I, the nature of I, what is this nature of I? It's an idea, it's an identification. I is identification. So one of the essential thing of the about the nature of this I is that when we are focusing on the I, we know that we are knowing the I, isn't it? When you focused on the I, you were aware that you were knowing, you were focusing on the I, and you were knowing the I. Was it like that or no? So if we are aware of this I, we can focus on the I and we can try to understand this I, then I also becomes a subject. It becomes an object of knowledge. And then who's that, or which is that entity which becomes aware that I have a I sense and I'm looking at my I sense? Little difficult, little tricky, but I think we'll have to carry it out little longer. Now, you see, what we are discussing in this sutra is the method adopted by Maharshi Raman. Raman Maharshi had adopted this method, and this is the method which is very popular in Indian spiritual discipline, where the person asks this question: who am I? Who am I? So, from where this I has come into existence? Was the I already always there, or was it created later on? Now you'll find that the more we get identified with the objects, the more I becomes strong. A small child does not have the conception, or he doesn't have a very well developed sense of individuality and I sense. But as the life goes on, he goes on formulating relationships, and his I sense becomes stronger and stronger and stronger till it is fully matured into a form of individuality in the form of I sense. From the point of view of psychology, also, you can understand how an infant is born and how his self identity is created. So, at some point, psychology would say it is necessary for the individual to grow into individuality, and he is aware of that individuality to become a very good personality, a full grown personality. It is necessary. So, this is how, from psychology point of view, the I sense grows. And this is called as self-consciousness. But it has got one characteristic, that when you are focusing on the I, you also come to know that there's something else which is knowing this I. Remember the power of not now, what Eckhart Tolle talk about. Many Western scholars have also talked about it, the self. So there is some conscious entity which is there behind this I. There's something which is beyond this buddhi. And all the experiences which are, or all the bhoga which is taking place, all the experiences are not for the sake of buddhi, because ultimately I sense is all made up of three gunas, buddhi is also made up of three gunas. Because this I sense sometimes becomes very dull, sometimes it becomes very prominent. There's a lot of change taking place, mutation taking place in this I sense. So this way, when the meditation is carried out and gradually one is focusing, then one comes to know that all the experiences which I am calling as mine, they are because of the identification. Ego is created because of the identification. These ideas we had discussed twice in great detail in chapter 2. In chapter 2, Sutra 6, Drag Darshana Shaktayore Katmateva Asmita. What is Asmita? What is this I sense? What is ego? What is abhiman? These ideas we had discussed in Sutra 6 of chapter 2, where they say Drag Darshana Shaktayore Katmateva Asmita. Two different entities, Drag Shakti and Darshan Shakti. Drag Shakti is the pure consciousness or Purusha or God or Atma, and Darshan Shakti is the Buddhi Sattva. When they come together and they are identified as one, that is what is ego, that is what is asmita. And then in Sutra 16 and 17, Heyam Dukkham Anagatam, there we had said, what is the cause of all the trouble? What is the cause of all the human trouble, human existence, and human experiences? Is because two different entities are taken together. So there in chapter 2, later on, after 6, then we were discussing about heya hetu. Drashtu drashyo संयोगो हेय हेतु. ये जो डिस्कार्ड करना है उसका कारण क्या है? दो अलग चीजें एक साथ आ गई. Drashtu drashyayo, drashta or drashya. So buddhi, prakriti is drashya and pure consciousness is drashta. Normally this drashta escapes our attention. But the moment we will start becoming aware of the self, the moment we will become, सीधी सी बात में अगर बोलेंगे हम लोग, तो पूरी भारतीय परंपरा किस बात पे आधारित है? आत्म साक्षात्कार, अपनी आत्मा का साक्षात्कार. Put it in English, self realization. Realizing the self is the ultimate purpose of Indian spirituality. It is the ultimate purpose of Sankhya and Yoga and Vedanta. They may use different terminology, but ultimately it boils down to the same thing. That what is that which is spiritual essence in all of us? How to realize that? That is what is the crux. That is what is the ultimate thing. So this sutra is talking about realizing that principle. So will we get total knowledge about the Purusha? No. By this Samyama, we will get only a glimpse of that entity which is beyond Prakriti, which is, so ultimately it is the consciousness. As doctor would always say, that what is the use of all the beautiful things which are around you if there is nobody to appreciate it? You have got very nice food stuff in front of you, but what will be the justification of that food if you are not hungry? The hunger is the justification. Who gets hungry and why the hunger is there? So essentially all those experiences which we are having, they have got certain purpose. All experiences in life are known as Bhoga. Now yoga wants us to learn from these experiences. All the time we are sending our consciousness are connected to the external world. We never sit back and quietly think that why I am doing this? Who is this I? What is happening to this I when we are indulging in these kind of things, when we are doing all these things? We never ask this, but yoga says do this, because ultimately human experience is connected to two words which are there, which are used in Yoga Sutras. One word I explained to you, Bhoga, all the experiences. The other word is Apavarga, Bhoga and Apavarga. So experiences are there so that these experiences can teach us something. What these experiences can teach? They can teach us about the ultimate reality. And once we have known the ultimate reality, then we will lose interest in all the experiences which we are right now interested in. Because we have known something which is bigger than this, which is making it possible for to go through these experiences. So, in doctor has given a very simple example. I'll just read that to you. It will make things little clearer. So, doctor has translated the whole thing as experience is a fusion of mental impulses of Sattva and Purusha, which are really quite distinct from each other. The former's actions are for the later. By Samyama on that which exists for itself arises knowledge of the Purusha. The first para of the commentary. The basic proposition in Sankhya and Yoga is of these two entities, Purusha and Prakriti. These two are totally different. Purusha is the pure consciousness and Prakriti is the unconscious or insensible matter. The two, however, get identified with each other. I become conscious of food. I is the consciousness, food is the matter. But I get involved with the food and start enjoying it very much. I lose my sense of proportion and believe that I live only to eat and that there is nothing better in the world, in the life, other than eating. This is called identification. However, after eating in excess, I lose interest in food. Even though the food is lying in front of me, I don't bother. I am unable to recognize myself as quite independent and food is outside my entity. So there are two situations. One is bhoga, when the consciousness gets identified with the matter, and the other is apavarga, freedom from matter. So the effort in yoga is to concentrate on this distinction between Prakriti and Purusha. So this is what doctor has given example, that we are interested. Identification makes us interested in the external world, and we go on enjoying. So in normal course of life, the upper work is not thought about. But then the nature of Prakriti is such that one cannot have all the times these things favorable. So there will be adversities because world is made up of gunas. Now you might be in a very powerful position. You might be experiencing everything to your advantage. You might be thinking that everything is fine. But very soon things will turn different. They will change. And life process is such that there is a continuous flux and change going on. So very soon maybe some misfortune may come, maybe some pain may come. Sooner or later, when we are going through life experiences, we are going to come to a point where everything will stop making sense and we will get tired of it. And we'll start asking questions, what is happening? What is this experience? And ultimately, that experience will also stop making sense. And ultimately, when we look at these experiences, we find that there's a lot of predominance of pain in our experiences, lot of disturbance. And that's why Buddha said, Sarvam Dukkham. Human experience, when we analyze human experience, we don't pay attention, we are not sensitive enough. Or we have not come to a level where things have become so clearer to us and so, they have gone to that extreme where we can realize what the truth is. Right now, we have the energy, we are interested in things, so carrying on. But in between, warnings are coming, in between, nature is sending us signals that we have to be careful or we have to understand what the truth is. Because unless we understand the truth, and often it happens then when there is a predominance of pain, then we start asking question, what is the meaning of this life? Everything is fine, we are rich, everything is fine. Suddenly we find that very close one has died. It happens. And then we go into a different kind of mood. We start asking question, what is the meaning of this life? I have lost somebody whom I loved. And then maybe we turn little inward, we start asking questions. So initially it happens with everybody, but then one doesn't carry it to the logical ends. And then whenever we are going through some kind of painful situation, temporarily there is mind is full of vairagya, objectivity. We turn away from things, we turn away from all the interest, and then we are very serious mood. For some time it remains, but the gunas are changing. So gunas will create distractions. Again, we will get interested in things. So this process is going on continuously. But yogi is not interested in this kind of existence, because every day you will find the life is such that continuously we are oscillating between two extremes, pleasure and pain, pleasure and pain, pleasure and pain. It is a struggle. Since morning, what we have done? Just analyze the experience. Today morning, since the time you got up till now, what have you done? What actions you have done? What was the aim? What was the motivation? What were you trying to achieve? All of us. What are we trying to achieve? You'll find that we are continuously trying to get pleasure out of life and avoid pain. This is the only pursuit we have. Is there any pursuit, other pursuit? Just tell me if you find any. If you find any other pursuit other than this, you take any actions of yours today and ask why I did it, why I am doing it, what is the ultimate motive behind it, and find if there is any other motivation other than this avoidance of pain and seeking the pleasure and satisfaction out of life. Is there anything else? If you can find that, it will be a worthwhile thing. Maybe a few minutes, take any action, take any actions of you, some prominent action you take, which you did today, and ask yourself, why did I do it? क्यों किया मैंने, क्यों कर रहा हूं, क्या चाहिए मुझे? What is the motivation? If we think like this every day, very soon you will understand that we are trying to get pleasure, we are trying to get things which we like, and we are trying to avoid things which we dislike. That is what the whole game is about. पूरा दिन हम यही करते हैं. We are guided by kleshas. हमको जो पसंद है वो करना है, हमको जो नहीं पसंद है वो नहीं करना है. कैसे नहीं करना है, कैसे जो पसंद नहीं उसको अवॉइड करना है, और जो पसंद है वो कैसे करना है. If we love somebody, we would like to meet him again and again. If we hate somebody, we would like to avoid that person again and again. If we love some things, we will try to repeat them, we'll try to get them. And anything which is disliked by us, which we don't like, we'll avoid that. So this, in this Bhoga, this continuously, this pleasure pain is going on. Our lives are oscillating between this pleasure and pain. Well, if we are satisfied with this kind of life, well, it goes on. Life is going on. But then persons like Buddha, who sees a sick person, who sees a dead body, who sees an old man, he's shaken by that experience. And he asks, what is the meaning of all this? I'm today having energy, so I'm enjoying. Tomorrow I'll become old. I'll become sick. I will die. Then what happens? So is there any other possibility where I can understand things in a better way, where I can escape these kind of pains? And such people find the Purusha, such people find the Atma, such people find God. So people often turn to God. As I told you, don't get confused. This is all play of words. People use different terminology, but ultimately the supreme reality which is governing the entire universe, which is governing the entire Prakriti, entire happening of Prakriti is consciousness. Call him God, call him Ishvara, call him universe, call him what? But it is the supreme intelligence which is guiding the whole process. So this sutra is talking about getting a glimpse of that supreme intelligence, that supreme consciousness, that pure consciousness, which never gets affected by it. So as I told you, it is a method of Raman Maharshi. Raman Maharshi, he asked only one question, only one spiritual question he asked, who am I? And he will spend hours together in asking, who am I? And ultimately he got his answers, and he turned out to be a great spiritual personality in India. Still people are seeking guidance from the teachings Raman Maharshi gave. So that is the method which is given in the sutra. Swartha Samyamat Purusha Jnanam. So what is the purpose of this all experience? Where I am going? What I am trying to achieve? When we ask this question, we will find that these experiences are not coming for the sake of Buddhi. They are, somebody else is observing it. So according to Yoga and Sankhya, it is the Purusha which is all the time witnessing. So another important spiritual technique of yoga is witnessing. Consciousness only witnesses. It doesn't participate. Who participates? The gunas are participating. The buddhi participates. The manas participates. Ahankar participates. Our indriyas, jnanendriyas, karmendriyas, they participate. They are in action mode. So, and another thing is that when we analyze experience, very, very important finding will be there. Now, when I'm saying this, why I'm doing this exercise with you is that don't think that we are not capable of understanding all this. We all have that capacity. We all have this same thing. If we pay attention to the right thing, then we all are capable of understanding these things. It is not a prerogative of some saint and sage or some great mystic. We all as human beings have the same potential, and we can understand it. So ultimately, what distinguishes between Bhoga and Apavarga, and what distinguishes Buddhi, Sattva and Purusha is one simple fact, When you focus on the self, you will find that self is relatively permanent. All other experiences are fleeting. They come, they go. They are mutating, they are changing. The body is changing, the mind is changing, the moods are changing, the feelings are changing. Since morning, how many feelings have come and gone? We might have experienced n number of feelings today itself. They were there, and when the feelings were occurring, we must have thought, oh, it's very important. But where is that importance now? It is gone. It's fleeting. So amongst all these experiences, if everything is changing, then for whom the experience is there? It must be for something which is lasting, which is abiding, which is there permanently. So you'll find everything in human personality changes except consciousness. Everything else. We are small, we don't have understanding, we grow in intelligence, we experience, we learn complicated things, all that, everything is changing, body is changing. We were young, now we grow old and then we die. So all these changes are there. But is there something which is lasting in it, for which all the experiences are there? When we ask this question, then we find there is one thing in our personality, the chetna, the consciousness. The consciousness has never changed. It has remained same when we were 6 months old. It is same when we were 5 years old. It is same when we were 20 years old. And now it is same whatever age we are in. It has not changed. So what is the nature of this consciousness? So where do we find it? As I told you, we cannot find this in the external world. We have to find it within our own experience. अपने वृत्तियों में ही अपने को ढूंढना पड़ेगा. इसीलिए पतंजलि ने बोला है, अथ योगानुशासनम योगश्चित्त वृत्ति निरोध तदा दृष्टु स्वरूपे अवस्थान. वृत्तियों का निरोध होते ही दृष्टा दिखाई देगा. The moment the fluctuations of the mind, and fluctuations of mind are there, why? Because of the identification. When Purusha and Buddhi are taken as one, the vrittis are there, the fluctuations are there. So you try to stop the fluctuations of Buddhi, what remains? As I told you, do this exercise again and again. Focus on the I. When we focus on the I, often we will find that some fluctuations are becoming less. And then certain amount of self-awareness comes. So whenever our pratyay, our cognition, our perception is directed towards this self-awareness, then we are getting a glimpse of Purusha. And when mind is interested in external things, we are looking at things, we are watching a movie, we are listening to song, looking at a tree, talking to someone, this consciousness is direct, identification is there. And that time the self-awareness is lost. Whenever the self-awareness is lost is Bhoga. And when we have this self-awareness and when we remain in this self-awareness, we are moving towards Purusha. We are moving towards the understanding of this Purusha. So this is a very, very important concept of Sankhya and Yoga. Not only Sankhya and Yoga, for Vedanta and all, in fact, in entire world, they have tried to find out, what is it ultimately which is running the show, which is behind everything. Even scientists, biologists, physicists, they are still trying to understand what is behind everything. So long back, Sankhya and Yoga said it is the pure Purusha. They termed it. Purusha is a label given by Sankhya. Brahma is a label given by Vedanta. Ishvara is given a label by some bhaktas or worshippers. God is a label given by some other people. All these are labels, but we do not know the reality is totally bigger than what human mind can conceive of. Our minds are too limited to be able to conceive that great reality. We are very restricted. So this Bhoga and Apavarga idea has to be always kept in mind, that all the experience in life, they are there not for the sake of enjoyment, but they are there to teach us something. We have to learn. We have to learn from all those experiences which we are going through. And then finally, we have to find out the most important common denominator of all the experience, that is the consciousness. So we will end with one instance from the Upanishad, where a young boy goes to learn to his Gurukul. In ancient India, there was a system that student will go to the guru's place and stay there for a few years and learn everything and then come back to home and then take up his worldly duties. So there was this boy who went to a Gurukul, and after learning, he came back very proud, feeling very proud that I have known all the Shastras, I am disciple of such a great Guru. And his father, he saw the arrogance and saw the identification, saw the ego, and he wanted to teach a lesson to the son. So he asked certain questions. And then after asking questions, finally that, a lot of long discussion is there. And finally the father says, what is that by knowing which you will know everything else? Did you learn that? Did your teacher teach you that? Did your teacher tell you that what is that thing by knowing which you will know everything? So the boy says, no, my teacher didn't teach me this. So the dialogue goes on between the son and it's a very famous Upanishad. So finally he says, it is you. So there are these Brahma Vakyas. Tat Tvamasi. Tat Tvamasi. You are that. What does it? Does that mean that you are your body, your mind, your buddhi? It is the consciousness. Atma. It is the spiritual essence which we all have. So having a glimpse of that is the ultimate aim in yoga. So this sutra has talked about it, and then in next sutra we'll see when we have this kind of knowledge, there is a lot of possibility of gaining more and more knowledge, subtle knowledge, powerful knowledge, supernatural knowledge. All those possibilities open up when a person is having this kind of discipline. So this is the sutra. I know it is difficult idea, difficult concept. I try to make it as interesting and as clear as possible within my limits. I don't know how successful I am, but then that's it. If there are questions, quickly we can have.
You were saying that reflect on the day to day,
Yeah.
and all the activities will be motivated by pleasure. But then I think the very fact that we are here collected, I don't think this is pleasure. This, जैसे अपन बोलते हैं कि चार मोटिवेशन है, धर्म, अर्थ, काम, मोक्ष. तो this our gathering here will be termed as moksha, no? Isn't it?
Yeah, it is a definitely attempt towards moksha.
हाँ. तो
Yeah.
पहले जो था ना, it was predominantly
But
pleasure,
then,
motivated by pleasure.
no, if this class was not there, what you would have done?
Yeah, so like
No, I'm asking you, this class was there, you came, it's a compulsion. You attended this
it
class.
is not a compulsion, it is like free will.
Free will. Okay.
Like
So
nobody forced me to
if
come.
you are using free will, then it is moksha.
हाँ. So
Then it
इसी
is moksha.
हाँ, तो इसी तरह से जैसे अभी जैसे ये चार जो है ना मोटिवेशन,
हाँ,
पहले it was just अर्थ and काम, but
हाँ.
now I feel there is some time given to the duty and some time given to the moksha idea also.
So now let us understand. Ajay, we have been exposed to this idea of Bhoga and Apavarga and more motivation since last 35, 40 years. In spite of that, we have been having these ideas. I'm not talking about everybody, I'm talking about you and me. So, in spite of knowing this, how much time do you think we are engaging out of 24 hours in an activity which we call moksha? And what percentage we are indulging or engaging in something which is worldly or towards bhoga? That is the question we will ask. We have to ask ourselves. I'm not asking you. I'm asking you to ask yourself. I'm asking myself.
Yeah.
I'm asking myself also that, we have this knowledge, but then what are we doing with it? When we are talking about this oscillation between the pleasure or pain, normally you will find even such kind of activity which we call, log bolte hain ki I have joined yoga. Joining yoga, does it a moksha activity? Well, for very few individuals. For most of the people who join yoga, it is for the sake of acquiring good body, good physical health. How many join yoga for moksha? Have you come across a teacher who says, "Come to my yoga class, I will give you peace"? They will say, "Get rid of stress, come to me. Get rid of diabetes, come to me. Get rid of all these problems, those problems." So now, if we are joining yoga for the sake of problems or problem solving, where is the moksha? So what is the motivation ultimately? Each one has to think of it. If we have got some action, and it is not that we will not have some actions. Doctors have often used to say that there are genuinely altruistic people. They try to help others, which is the activity of moksha. So there are activities we do some activities, but when you look at the percentage of it, in spite of having the intellectual understanding of so many things, we are not able to go in right direction because bhoga holds us. That is the problem.
True, true.
So this is not intellectual understanding. It is experiential thing. When sutra is talking about something which is not to be only understood intellectually, everybody knows there is God and there we are. There's this world and there's God. This intellectual knowledge everybody possesses. Everybody knows that I have a spirit and I have a body. But how many can distinguish that? That is, intellectual knowledge is one thing. Experiencing, Raman Maharshi experiences. Dr. Jayadev experiences. We talk about it intellectually, as we are doing now. But this is also necessary because it will give us a direction.
Namaste, sir. I have a technical question. Just to understand this process of meditation for myself. So, the statement that you said initially in the class, that the consciousness identifies with guna, right?
It is the
And that
buddhi
is bhoga.
It is buddhi which is identifying.
Okay, yeah, this is what I want to clarify. Okay,
Yeah, the
thank
buddhi
you
which
so
is
much.
identifying. Because in Purusha there is no action.
Exactly.
Because it is too technical, I did not go into the quality of the Purusha. Purusha is ever remaining same. It is always same. It never changes. Prakriti is
Exactly.
always changing. This is the distinctive
Exactly.
factor. Prakriti
Exactly.
and Buddhi, they are always mutating. There is always change. In Purusha, there is no change. It remains.
Yes. Yes. So it is. So when we also say, when, for example, the statement that you used, you focus on the self or finding the self, it is the buddhi which finds the self,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. The
So
Buddhi
it is the
finds.
job of the buddhi. And when we say you focus on the self, it is the buddhi, the sattvic buddhi, the
Sattvic.
completely sattvic buddhi,
Yeah.
which has the capacity to focus on the self, right? Yes.
This
And
Buddhi,
then viveka khyati
this Buddhi is
comes.
known as Nishchayatmika Buddhi.
Nishchayatmika buddhi, right?
Bhagavad Gita, you will find they talk about a Buddhi which is turned towards self.
Turned towards self.
See, it is this Buddhi which turns outward and attains Bhoga. It is this Buddhi which turns inward and finds Apavarga.
So it is the job of the buddhi to find
Yes.
the Purusha.
Yeah.
Yes. So
It
usually
has to turn itself to Buddha, Purusha. It is like, one commentator has beautifully said that Buddhi becomes like a mirror where Purusha is seeing its face, and then the separation takes place.
Right, right. So it is after the cleansing of the kleshas,
Yeah.
then the
Viveka
sattvic
Khyati.
buddhi,
Viveka
viveka
Khyati is the
khyati.
yeah.
In neuroscience, they often use the word metacognition, where they say to be aware of the thoughts, to be aware of the cognition.
Yeah.
So what they are basically actually trying to say is the same, where
this is the exercise I was trying to this is the exercise I gave to focus on the eye, so so that we can have this metacognition.
Yeah, exactly. So this is what I'm trying to find out since quite some time. This focusing on the eye, it is the buddhi focusing on the eye.
Yeah.
And that itself is metacognition.
That itself is, and when Buddhi realizes that this awareness is there, like the Eckhart Tolle talks about power of now, and here it's a totally thoughtless state. There's no thought, there's no vritti, there's only this self-awareness. If you have to put it in the words, we have to say that there's only self-awareness which remains. That is
Right.
metacognition.
But we have to even go beyond metacognition.
Yeah. Ultimately, yoga would say one has, because that will come and that will go. It will not be abiding, it will not be lasting.
Right. Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Sir, when we say Viveka Khyati, it
Yeah.
means 100% Sattva in the yogi's chitta, right?
Yeah, 100% Sattva we cannot say, because gunas are always together.
That's what, because when we
So,
say
yeah.
the memory is tamas, so it means it does not have his chitta does not have any memory or any tamas.
So now we have to understand where does the Viveka Khyati take place? It takes place in the Buddhi. So Buddhi is very much there. If Buddhi is there, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, all three are present. The only thing is that Sattva has become so predominant that now Rajas and Tamas cannot touch it or cannot influence or overpower it.
But it is still there.
It is still there. Gunas are always together. No guna can be.
But it does not mean it is only 100% Sattva in the Viveka Khyati.
No, only Sattva is not there. Sattva will be always supported by Tamas and Rajas. Because it is in the form of cognition that Purusha and Prakriti are different. But somebody is still cognizing. The Buddhi is still there. In Viveka Khyati, Buddhi is still there. When Viveka Khyati is also left, then that is Asampragnati.
So in the Ritambara Pragya, there will be no memories left then?
No, Ritambara Pragna will have. Ritambara Pragna, you are confusing. Don't go in that area.
Okay.
Forming memories, Ritambara Pragna will destroy all earlier memories, but there will be a memory of Ritambara. Sajja sanskaro,
Right.
anya sanskara
Right.
pratibhati. Tasyapi nirodhe sarva nirodhan nirbija samadhi. Don't go in that area. Here we are talking about presence of Buddhi is there. Until the final plunge is there taken, Buddhi will be still there. Gunas will be still there. Even if the Sattva is predominant. And yoga is interested in going beyond.
Thank you.
So that is ekagraha chitta, right? When the buddhi is still recognizing with the sattva.
Yeah.
And then when it stops recognizing even with sattva, then nirodha.
It will be nirodhasam.
Yes.
It will be asam pragnata, nirodhasam.
I have one more clarification question.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the 18 components of chitta, buddhi, ahankar, manas, 5 karmenyas, 5 gyanendriyas, 5 tanmatras, whereas usually we say 17 components, right? We leave out the buddhi, and instead of tanmatras, we have the 5 mahapranas. So is one according to Sankhya and one according to yoga or sutras?
No, there's a little confusion there.
Yeah.
Because when we talk about pranas, many people say that chitta comprises of pranas as 5 pranas separately. But then one has to understand this. When we talk about buddhi, prana is inherent. When we talk about manas, prana is inherent. When we talk about manas or ahankar, prana is inherent in it. Without that, eyes are seeing. How I can see unless the pranas are there? So pranas are not a separate category. So that has to be clarified. Even the great masters have clarified. Like Swami Hariyananda has clarified it very clearly, and he says that at some places they have mentioned 17, but it is the 18 components, because at many places, buddhi is mentioned. Buddhi comprises of abhimana or ahankar also. So they count 17. But if we count ahankar as separate, so then it will be buddhi, ahankar, manas, pancha gyanendriya, pancha karmendriya, and pancha tanma. That is the correct technical position.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that. And then another question remains, what is the difference then between buddhi and chitta?
Chitta is the technical word of the entire conglomerate, and buddhi is a part of chitta. Chitta is the container, Buddhi is contained.
Okay.
Buddhi is one of the faculty. It is one of the part
Of Antakarana.
of Chitta. She is asking about Chitta. She is not talking about Antakarana.
Right. Yes, thank you, sir.
Leave it here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Namaste.
Namaste.